Hey guys.
Hi. Mr. Zink, do we have to get a word with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Because we can't cross that little Benjamin line.
geez,
Remember, we had that line problem the other day?
If
So can you tell us, sir, why you changed your plea with your trial?
you want to put the microphones on me, I can discuss that a little bit. I was surprised to see that Mr. Zink did want to take responsibility. I mean, it's not the first stage in the proceedings, but I think there was definitely tribal issues here. I wanted to be entirely clear that for him to run this trial to the stage that we made it to, it was justified. I've reviewed all of the evidence. We've had thorough opportunity to review and discuss it. And I think even today there were tribal issues. Despite that, Mr. Zink decided, he said, look, I want to take responsibility for this, and that's why we came in here today and he changed his plea. And that was after long discussions with the Crown in terms of what facts were going to be read in. And I think that it's important to also note that not all of the facts that the Crown initially was relying on actually made it into the discussions that ultimately ended up in a change in plea.
But at the end of the day, you are pleading guilty to filing false expense claims that you said you gave money to charitable organizations and you didn't give them the money. And you pleaded guilty to fraud and breach of trust. So what's your explanation?
I got to be careful there. I don't want him to provide an explanation at this point, okay? Because he's going to be going to see a probation officer. He's going to be doing a pre-sentence report. This is not the juncture for him to get into an explanation.
Let's try it this way. What would you like to say to your constituents?
I think, like the judge said today, that obviously there's a second stage of this, so we're going to adhere to that. To my constituents, obviously there's a level of disappointment. Getting into politics, the first day that you're elected, you're told to get re-elected. And how you do that is obviously by trying to do as much as you can. Unfortunately, due to a number of issues, overextending myself, I found myself falling into a situation that was led me obviously to this point. For that, I'm very remorseful. I do want to thank all my constituents for the week-long support that they've given me last week. I want to obviously thank my excellent counsel and his team to get me to this point, to have the Crown approach us. It was not an easy decision for me to back away from this and come to this point, but obviously a long look at the facts that came out last week, many meetings over the weekend to get to this point. I'm relieved to see it move on.
So are you saying that basically your financial situation is that you got in over your head and you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul? Or what?
No, we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to allow him to answer questions that are rightfully left for the probation officer. What I will say, though, is, look, for him to even take responsibility the way that he did, it took some courage. This is a tough thing to deal with, especially when you have a lawyer that's telling you that there's tribal issues. Despite that, he decided to take responsibility. So I think that the focus of the interview is surrounding that. That's fine, but certainly I don't want him to get into a discussion about topics that he should keep for the probation officer.
Are you going to resign your seat?
There's a lot of things I have to think of, obviously, and a lot of people I have to sit down and talk to. That'll be part of my thought process, obviously, but we're going to take some time to review. Obviously, now my point is to get back and talk to as many people as I can and survey it that way. There's obviously discussions I have to have with the Speaker and the legal counsel at the Legislative Assembly as well to give me some further insight into that. But right now we're just going to prepare the next step. Obviously, I have some commitments and obligations and I'm going to adhere to that.
Would you like to stay on as MLA?
Absolutely. There's no question that I've made some mistakes. I don't think that takes away from all the good that I've been able to do. There was a number of organizations and individuals that benefited from the funds that I've been allocated to them over the years. A number of them that continue to support from around the province. I've made a huge impact in people's lives, and obviously I'd like to continue doing it. It's a job I'm very passionate about. But there were some mistakes made, and I'm standing up to account.
But by this plea, sir, does it not mean that you have to leave the job under existing law?
Absolutely. There were some discussions this morning with Legislative Council. Those discussions will continue. I think there's been precedents set in the past that don't dictate that I immediately have to step down. But again, that'll be a part of the discussions I'll have over the next coming days.
Well, you may not have to step down. The legislature can be recalled and you can be expelled. Are you expecting that would happen if you don't resign?
You know what? There's one person that has control of that, and it's not me. It's unfortunate, but if that's to happen, that's something that I have to live with.
When you say that one person, you're talking about the Premier or the Speaker?
Well, there's going to be discussions, obviously, and I would have suggested the Premier was probably going to be party to those discussions. And if that happens, so be it. That's what I have to go through. I have to do it.
But you've lost your pension now. You agree to that?
And,
Under the legislation passed last month.
yeah,
you lost your pension.
and to be quite honest, I said when the bill was passed as law in the House, getting into politics was never about a pension for me. It was about allowing me to have the opportunity to help people that came to me. I've become a navigator and negotiator and have influenced and impacted a lot of people's lives. It's never been about a pension. And you know what? That's a very moot point for me. It doesn't bother me at all.
I still looking at running the next election. If we looked at your status as a potential candidate in the next election.
Like I said, there's a lot of things that I have to take into consideration. I continue through all of this to have a tremendous amount of support, and people that have obviously gone through last week have come to me and said, you know what, people make mistakes. Other people have made mistakes, other politicians have made mistakes. They were afforded the opportunity to pay back and make amends and continue on. Unfortunately, I was thrown into a forensic audit. They found mistakes. I'm obviously holding up my responsibility to that. But yes, I would like to continue on. The work that I do has some great value to the community that I serve. So as long as I continue to have that support, and the discussions obviously have to take place to allow me to make that decision.
What ran through your mind today in court as you had to answer each question yes to that judge? What was going through your mind?
It's not just today. It's, the feelings that you go through. I often talk to my constituents when they come to me with an issue, and I'm usually pointing them in the direction of legal counsel. One of the things I will say to them is that you don't want to find yourself in front of a judge if you don't have to. The good thing about politics is I have 20,000 constituents that decide my fate every time I put my name on a ballot. Here I'm putting my fate in the hands of one person and hoping that I can convince them of that. So each day, you're left with thoughts of where is this going to go. You're watching the Crown present their case. You're seeing the excellent legal representation you're getting. And I'm very, very happy with Lyle Howe's representation. He fought every day for me. And I think the Crown understood that. And that's why they came back at us. To have a deal put on the table now, at this point, it's not a regular thing that would normally happen. And to get the deal that I was provided, I'm very happy, and I believe it's because of Lyle's representation.
But the Crown says that they will be seeking a jail term, right?
Yeah.
Do you think what you did deserves a jail term?
I'm going to leave that up for the judge. Obviously, the Crown has a job. They put forward a case that they think is worthy of a proper sentence that they think is proper. And again, through a pre-sentence report, the judge is going to weigh in all the factors. Again, we'll have another opportunity to present. Again, I think if I could sum it all up, I'm in court last week. When I leave court, I have booked appointments. I'm in the office helping people till 9, 10 o'clock. I have a great passion for the work that I do and the impact that I make in people's lives.
Even on his lunch break when he's dealing with his own trial, he's taking calls from the
But right now, sir, I guess with all due respect, you're a convicted criminal.
Absolutely. I now have a criminal record. It's not something that I'm very proud of. It's a tough one. There's no doubt. It's tough. But again, the community and the people I served, the expressions that were given to me was the fact that they acknowledge that no one's perfect. People make mistakes. And I can tell you that as an MLA for my first 7 years, I was able to help a tremendous amount of people. And that's both personally and financially. I've done a lot of good, and this by in no means takes that away from me. I can hold my head high and be proud of that fact. But yes, I do have a criminal record.
So it sounds like if there's any way possible, you want to stay in MLA.
There's some definite value in the work I do. Absolutely some definite value in the work that I do for the people that I serve.
So you,
And they ultimately-
you will try to keep your seat.
Well, I'd like to think that, again, when you run an election, it's probably the biggest popularity contest that you go through. You put your name on a ballot, and the people will decide. And it's probably been the best job I've ever had for that fact. There's not one person deciding your fate. It's a group of people that decide, and I can live by that. I can live by that. So, like I said, there's going to be many conversations, many thought processes that are going to go in place. A lot of work still to be done in the community. I know the fact that I'm walking out of here today and being able to go right to my office and start working again, as I have many calls this morning during the break, people are going to be happy with that. If I was to walk away right now, it'd be sad to see the turmoil that would follow. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
It depends on the sentence, but I mean, they could ask for the money under the new legislation. Not every-
Oh, listen, it's always been my intention. You know, originally there was an audit. I got clear of the first audit. Somehow, for whatever reasons, I find myself into a forensic audit that looks at me closer, and they found some mistakes and inefficiencies. Today, I'm taking ownership of that, and from day one, I've said to my legal counsel, Lyle Howe, if I owe somebody money, I deserve to pay that money back.
Do you
I don't have a
the
problem.
financial resources to pay it back?
I'll
Not give us 10%.
Well, Mr. Dubray, you know, alluded to a fact that I now have a pension, or no longer have a pension. Well, I do have the contributions that I'm allotted, and that's between $55,000 to $65,000 that I can take as one lump sum. And if that's the choice that I make, that the monies that I owe will be paid back immediately. I won't wait for an order from the government, Service Nova Scotia Collections, whatever. I intend to pay back immediately as soon as I have that money. And I'll make that known to the Crown and to the courts and to the public.
You have said in the past gambling is something you've done. Going forward,
Again, I think that's a question that's going to obviously be part of the pre-sentence. We're going to just leave that for them.
can you give any sense, we'll probably ask the Crown, as to how much money was not given to...
I think over the course of the trial, there's been a number of issues that came up and numbers that were provided. We'll wait for the final tally.
So we'll hear in sentencing what happened to that money?
Oh, yeah, there's no
Hear what the
question.
agreed statement of fact is.
There's no question.
Okay.
Mr. Howe, can you tell us what's an appropriate sentence?
Oh, listen, I've been researching this extensively, and I still don't have an answer for you. We need to go back to the drawing board. Carl and I need to sit down and think about what we want to put forward as an appropriate pitch to this judge. I don't have an answer at this point. I can tell you I don't agree with the Crown that jail is appropriate in these circumstances, but in terms of what we're going to be requesting, not 100% sure yet. And when I say jail isn't appropriate, that doesn't mean a custodial sentence in the community would necessarily be appropriate. But certainly to see Mr. Zink go to an incarceration facility, I don't think that would be an appropriate sentence in these circumstances. That's up to the judge, though, at the end of the day, so we're not going to fight this in the minds of the media. We're going to wait until we come back on our sentencing day, and we've got a very capable judge that's going to make that decision after we make submissions.
But that's the reason we don't have a joint recommendation. The key reason.
I'm not going to jointly recommend that this man goes to jail. I don't think that that's appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, yeah, no problem.